Hi, I'm Michael Coffey.
And I'm Eric Scott, and our guest today is George Grossman, owner of Happy Lucky's Tea House and Treasures, and let's talk tea. So thanks for coming on, George.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's great to be here.
Hey, George.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Eric.
Yeah. What are you drinking today?
Some Dongding from Nantun County in Taiwan.
Cool.
One of my favorite oolongs, and one of the things we like to say around here is all roads lead to oolong. So.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Actually, it's my wife's favorite quote. All roads lead to oolong.
Speaking of your
I've
wife,
been I've been to Dongding. It's a wonderful, wonderful little place.
Well, I haven't, but it's on my bucket list.
Excellent. Yes,
So-
everyone should make the trip.
Definitely.
so speaking of your wife, maybe we can start by you tell us a little bit about. So you're in addition to owning Happy Lucky's Tea House and Treasures, you're a co-founder of a nonprofit organization called Sustainable Schools International. So maybe start by just telling us a little bit about kind of the origin story of the tea shop and like how that fits in with SSI and why a tea shop and.
That's a great place to start. Uh, Happy Lucky's Tea House opened in 2009, and earlier my wife and I guess I should start with our children are adopted, and so my son is adopted from Cambodia, and my daughter is adopted from India. And so when we were waiting for kind of all the paperwork to be done, my wife is fairly impatient, and so she wanted to do something, and we wanted to do something to give back to Cambodia, where our son was going to be coming from. And we thought that education was a great way to basically keep families together, so that children wouldn't end up in orphanages. And so we raised $15,000, made a donation to another nonprofit, and for $30,000 they built a traditional 5-room schoolhouse. When we were there to adopt him, we went out to our very rural area, 4 hours or so from Phnom Penh, kind of some crazy roads. And there was a thatch roof hut, held about 50 kids. They had like one piece of chalk, no real blackboard, just kind of some old wood that they were using. And we were like, yeah, this would be a great place. Obviously, they're trying to have a school, but they need some help. And so we selected that area. And thus was the start of Sustainable Schools International, supporting education in Cambodia. So when we moved to Fort Collins in end of 2007 in August, we were looking to do something different than I had done previously, which was video production and still photography. And I've always been a tea lover, and I drank tea through college and beyond. Wasn't very knowledgeable, but I drank a lot of tea, especially green tea. What I've come to know now today was mostly Chinese green teas. And so we wanted a place to have offices for our nonprofit, and we knew that tea really brings people together. So we wanted to build a place of community. We knew Fort Collins had a lot of businesses that were doing lots of great things, but nobody knew what they were doing. All these great nonprofits working around the world, nobody knew what we were doing. We were working in our house. We didn't know anybody. So we wanted to build a place of community. And what that did was started the birth of the tea house. And so we started looking around in 2008, around Thanksgiving time, and eventually we found a really cool old building, the old firehouse. It's a historic building here in Old Town Fort Collins, and needed a little bit of work, but not too much, which was good, and basically allowed us to start on a shoestring. and put more money into tea and less money into renovations, which was good. And so now there's a fairly deep connection between Happy Lucky's the Tea House and Sustainable Schools International. From the very start, Happy Lucky's has always donated 10% of profits to Sustainable Schools International. If you're ever in the Tea House, or if you go to our website and you click on Tea House and then virtual tour, there's a Google Inside, just like Google Street Maps. Google Inside, you can go and virtually walk around the tea house. You'll see on one of the walls there's a large wall that has a big banner supporting Sustainable Schools International. Kari's offices and the volunteers all work upstairs in the old firehouse. And so there's this real tight connection between the two. All the Leafsters know our story. Leafsters are what we call our team, employees, the people that help customers select tea, drink a lot of tea. So the Leafsters know our story, and they share our story with customers. And usually it's about the second or third time someone comes in, they'll go, so what's this connection to Cambodia? And they'll see the signs. The Leafsters wear these silk shirts that are traditional in Cambodia. And so we get to tell our story. And that's kind of how the two are wedded together. Kari owns 50% of the tea house. She's the executive director of the nonprofit, and I'm also on the board and the treasurer. So that's kind of who we are in a nutshell. And it's, it kind of fits with our idea of social entrepreneurism, where you have for-profit businesses that also have a larger mission and vision, like built right into the core of who you are and what you do. And that kind of explains what Happy Lucky is all about.
And I've got a question sort of related to that. So I do business consulting and business analysis, web strategy, that kind of thing. So I'm kind of curious what your challenges are that you've run into that you think maybe you wouldn't have seen if you'd just been, I'm starting a tea house, and that's, what are some of the complexities of having this particular tie, which I think is fantastic, and I wish more businesses did. But if someone in the audience is thinking of maybe doing something like this because it is a good idea, like, what should they look out for?
Well, I don't know if there's anything to look out for. Well, actually, what I'll say is that you have to have a clear vision. And the vision and the social entrepreneurism piece has to mesh with the organization and kind of what your product is. So tea, in my mind, is a worldly beverage. And so it's the whole point of the tea house and this idea is that it's an international place. I mean, we're a contemporary tea house. I'm not Asian. We're not Asian style. We're not English style tea room with red hats and all that kind of stuff. We're a contemporary style, American style tea house with this international world view. And the key, my key advice is having what your vision is mesh with who you are. And so to me, it's that connection of internationalness that we have, because it's the core of my family. I mean, I have a Cambodian son, an Indian daughter, and we're always thinking international. And any local business, I mean, you get hit up for donations all the time, and everybody's walking in a couple times a week. We get, please help support our local business and our local nonprofit and schools and all that. And you can't support them all. And so what we've done is, besides supporting education in Cambodia, is I always look for things that have an international flair. Is it supporting something international? Is it helping women and children, education, women's empowerment, those sorts of issues that are very deeply international and a little broader than might be what goes on in just our local community. I mean, I go beyond that, but it's a way to do that. But I guess the answer to your question, it really is making sure your social mission aligns with the product and things that you're selling. I mean, if we were who we are and we wanted to support something that didn't match, to me, they don't mesh.
Well, and so it sounds like you've got it set up as a for-profit business, and you have a nonprofit that does the
yes, they're two separate
good work. Yeah.
There's two separate entities, and and one is for profit and one is not for profit. That's why.
Right.
I mean, we looked into, which is a little beyond the scope of this conversation, but there's a new type of business corporation called B Corps, benefit corporations, and they just came online in Colorado about 2 months ago. And we're considering that, and it basically what that does is it takes your corporation, it writes right into the mission, right into the corporate documents that you will be either sharing profits, and it
Right.
really overlays this umbrella of who you are and what you're doing, and allows you to then, if you have investors, step beyond just the bottom line and supporting shareholders and owners.
Yeah,
And
and in Washington State we have something. It's not the B Corp. It's called a social purpose corporation.
okay, similar.
So yeah, it's before that was created, B Corp was one of the things that they looked at as a possible structure. So that's cool.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I've noticed, at least about Happy Lucky's, the first time I went in there, is that it's got this interesting kind of balance where it's connected to a nonprofit and it's a tea shop, but that it also has an interesting balance as a tea shop, in that it's one of the only places that I've been to that at least feel-wise, maybe not like number of sales-wise or dollars-wise, but it feels like a pretty even split between being like a cafe, like a sit-down, have a pot of tea house, and a retail tea shop. Is that important to, I mean, like, how important is that, I mean, to the success of Happy Lucky's, or why did you decide on that sort of model, or did it just happen that way?
Well, you know, when you start any business as an entrepreneur, you start maybe with one vision, and then you need to respond to what your customers tell you they want. And you know, if you want to be successful in any business, you really need to be aware of that. And so, you know, one of the things that we did is, prior to the tea house, my wife is a writer, and she had written a book. It's called Bones That Float: Story of Adopting Cambodia, and it's won a couple independent book awards. And so we would go give talks, and she would read from her book, and in the back of the room we would sell books, and we also imported fairly traded silk from Cambodia. Most of it was made by landmine survivors, and it was really cool. So when we first opened, all of the silk was in the front of the shop, the seating was in the back, and the tea wall, what we have now, is the Great Wall of Tea. It wasn't called the Great Wall of Tea yet, and it was like in this little corner area with about 70 or 80 teas. And we went through the first Christmas season. It was great. People were finding us. And then we made, after we did inventory in January, beginning of January, like, you know, no one's going to want silk gifts at this point. Let's swap them and put all the silk in the back. We'll put the chairs in the front and the seating in the front for the wintertime. We'll see what happens. And bam, it took off. And what the community really wanted was a tea house. And so from what my original vision was kind of half tea house, half community meeting place, and half silk shop, quickly evolved into a tea house. The silk is still there. It's got a small section. We got, you know, a whole bunch of great silk scarves, but it's in the back. The silk never made it back to the front of the tea house. And what's happened over time that Eric's referring to is that the wall of tea, which was kind of in the corner, now is over 10 feet wide, 6 feet tall. There's 180 loose leaf teas, not including all these cool herbs and spices that you can get to do your own blends. And so it's really focused on the retail tea shop. But we do have seating for, maybe 28 or 30 if every seat was filled, something like that. When we expanded into what was my office in the old jail, is now has 4 tops in it, so for 16 people right there. And so it's interesting that you know, Eric's been around for a while at Happy Lucky's, that the perception is that it's kind of half tea house cafe and the other half is retail tea. But from a business standpoint, it's way skewed towards the retail tea shop and sales of teaware. And that's always when we're planning things and doing things. I mean, the tea house is the teas to come in, no pun intended. People can come and hang out, enjoy tea, but ultimately, you know, we want them to buy loose leaf tea. And because that way you can take it home, you can experiment, you can learn how to brew tea on your own. And the way that we do our table service is all designed to kind of break that barrier that people have from wanting to use bag tea to loose leaf. And there's techniques that we use to do that because we want a tea to be accessible. And our goal is not to make tea, is to break down the snootiness of tea and really open it up so that someone would not be afraid to try a dongding after we tell them what it's about, how many times you can steep it, its flavor profile, all these great things about this tea that you won't be afraid to try it, or try it in the tea house and maybe you'll get it to take it home.
So you're really focusing on that point of transition from kind of the I'm a grocery store tea drinker to the I'm a loose leaf, I know some things about tea, kind of that first step into tea geekdom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, so we have an event at the tea shop in March. That actually, when I told people about it on Google Plus, a lot of people were interested and excited about it. The Great Tea Exchange. What is the Great Tea Exchange, and how does that fit into this?
The Great Tea Exchange. I have the Great Wall of Tea and the Great Tea Exchange. I think I need some better marketing. But the Great Tea Exchange.
Hey, it all sounds great.
It all sounds great. Yeah. Yeah. We'll change the name of the tea house to the Great Tea House here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not. So the Great Tea Exchange, there's a couple incidents that happened, but the idea of it is everybody has tea at home. I mean, you go into anybody's household, the studies show that 90% of people have some form of tea in their house, but they're not always drinking it. And there's always this pressure that I got to drink all this tea before I go buy new tea. But a lot of it is not great tea. I'll be nice about that. Not great tea. And I would do tests.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about. Go to the grocery store and take a look. So, but I would go to people's house and I'd open up. I go, hey, I'm just doing a survey. Can I look in your tea drawer? And I'd look in their tea drawer, and they'd have all this crap tea. And so I was like, how can I get in the and people would come in and be like, oh, someone's going to go buy like 4 ounces of 3 or 4 different teas, and then finally the partner or husband or wife would say, but honey, you got all that tea at home. And then they would walk out with 2 ounces, and I'd be like, I just lost a sale. They're not drinking good tea. And so what I decided was this idea of an exchange. So the Great Tea Exchange is you can go through your drawer and clear out all the old tea that you're not drinking. It can be bag tea, loose leaf tea, brick tea, who knows? We've gotten all sorts of weird stuff. But you bring it in, we weigh it, packaging it all, because we want to be generous. And so, for example, if you bring in 5 ounces of tea, we weigh it, boxes and all, and it weighs 5 ounces. We will then sell our tea at 20% off for 5 ounces. And they can mix and match usually in 1 ounce or 2 ounces at a time. But the whole idea is to clear it out. And so what's funny is, we've been doing it for 4 years. We just had our 4th one. And all our regulars don't have any tea to bring in. So it's interesting because, and so my first year, my goal was to bring in 50 pounds of tea. And I think we got into the high 40s. And it's kind of come down from that. We collect 30. I think this year was about 25 pounds of tea. But the idea is like, just go through all that old stuff that you're not drinking and trade it out for some really good, fresh, loose leaf tea. And a lot of times we sell teaware with it, and it's education. And we run it in March, but I walked in today to do this, and on my desk was a couple boxes of tea, and somebody had the little flyer and did the Great Tea Exchange today. I mean, we won't turn anybody down. They want to buy our tea and give me some bad tea, I'll take it every day.
Yeah, we've gotten some interesting things from that. We got some Celestial Seasonings boxes from 1978. I think that was probably
about the oldest. And
that was in somebody's cabinet.
Yeah, that was, and we open it up and we drink some of it. Sometimes there's bags from China or Japan or Taiwan that has no English writing on it, that's been open and somebody used a little bit, but they don't know what it is.
Or someone brought it back as a gift from their trip or whatever, and
got it as a gift, and they don't know what it is, and so we'll open it up and we'll drink it, and some interesting things that we'll find that we'll drink, and
But
And
most of the time, it's just like Safeway brand bag tea, right?
and a few others
Right, right,
that we won't mention at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but that's
right.
the exchange, and it's
I was
fun.
just at the grocery store today, and in their they had like their clearance bin or whatever at the grocery store, and there was a lot of a famous brand in that bin. I almost took a picture of it because it was like, huh, even the grocery store can't sell grocery store tea. Um, maybe we're making progress here.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how old the tea is that people have, and as much as I'd like to have somebody come in and buy a pound of tea or a half a pound of tea, in some ways, if they live in town, I'd much rather they went home with 1 to 2 ounces of 3 or 4 different teas and come and see me in 2 weeks
Yeah.
and
Right.
try something different. The people that live further away tend to buy larger quantities. It's amazing how in southeastern Wyoming, Cheyenne, Laramie, I mean, Fort Collins is the big city. They'll drive down and they'll buy larger quantities because they only come once every 4 to 6 weeks. But I'd much rather have somebody, buy what they want, have it last a couple of weeks because maybe they want something different.
Right. Well, because fresh is good, and I always tell people to use the 80-20 rule. That spend 80% of your time drinking what you like, and 20% of your time drinking something that you haven't tried before, because you never know if you'll find something that you like better than that thing that you're drinking 80% of the time.
I like
Exactly.
that. I might have to steal that.
And we have, our Great Wall of Tea with 180 loose leaf teas. There's, we have people who are very, I don't know, say risk-taking or courageous. I mean, they're all over the place, and they'll try everything. And then you have others that will only drink the oolongs or only drink green tea. And then there's others that it's the same tea every time they come in.
Yep.
And but you do have others that are all over the place, and those people are fun because they're walking in what is new, what's fresh, what's different today, and they're open to suggestion, and you can really guide them to expand their palate, expand the flavor profiles, give them a little more education, and then hopefully at the end their experience will grow.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to ask maybe one last question, and then we'll kind of plug some things, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. I've been wanting to ask this question, but I always run out of time or we forget it. So, George, if you could drink tea with anybody, dead or alive, who would you drink tea with?
I'd drink tea with you guys.
That's a cop-out answer.
Yeah, I think that we have to say that drinking tea with us. I mean, we're already doing that, so that's hardly an opportunity, right?
You haven't shared what you're drinking today, but that's okay.
True.
I'm drinking sencha.
You're drinking what?
Sencha from Happy Lucky's sencha.
Oh, okay.
And I'm drinking something from Iran. That was just kind of like a. Actually, I may have sent it out as a Tea Geek member sample a while back, and I found a little bit left over. So it's the last of this little batch that I had, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just drink that up.
Well, that sounds delicious. Well, it'd be fun to drink tea with the Dalai Lama.
All right.
That would be fun.
Which incarnation?
All of them. Aren't they all the same?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're all the same.
Cool.
There was I saw a video clip. Someone did a convention for time travelers. And a reporter was like, okay, so is this going to be the first, like an annual event? And without missing a beat, the guy that was being interviewed says, well, really, we just need the one.
Oh, great.
And I think I would add Jack Kerouac because I think he'd be crazy. And
that would be awesome.
We could do some bird with him, and that would be awesome.
Yeah, get Jack Kerouac tea drunk. That'd be
That's
fun.
right.
Well,
All right.
you can visit the website for Happy Luckies at happyluckies.com, and they do online orders, and you can take a virtual tour of the tea shop in case you're interested, and check out all the teas there. And
And we'll
what
try to
else?
put that link in the
Yeah.
description of the video once it goes
And
live.
what's Sustainable Schools website?
It's pretty simple. It's Sustainable Schools International, all spelled out, .org. There's also links from the happyluckies.com website.
Cool.
Great.
Anything else you want to tell us about? Any events or anything you want to plug? Or
No, all I'm going to say is tea is life. Enjoy and share daily.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you guys very much. It's been an honor to be here. Real
For
privilege.
those of you that are watching this live, we will have our regular tea salon hangout. So on Google Plus, if you go to the Tea Geek page with this logo on it, right after this we'll have a sort of an informal group chat about tea that we do every Sunday. And next month, on the 8th of June, we'll have the next episode of Let's Talk Tea, and that will be with Austin Hodge of 7 Cups. So that is coming up next month.
Yep.
So anything else, Eric, that you want to say?
No, I think that's it. Thanks for being on, George. It was a pleasure to talk
Thank
to
you.
No, thank you. It's my pleasure.
If any of you guys have more questions for George and you're watching this recorded, you can leave comments and we'll bug him and he'll try to answer them for you.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We'll talk tea all
All
day.
right. All right. Well, until next time, think tea, drink tea, and talk tea. Take care. See you next time.
Bye.